Boy, you gotta be careful what you do around friends with a microphone. You never know what ends up in the public domain. Which you'd think I learned that lesson. Good evening, fellow revolutionaries. Thank you for including me in your wonderful event. And congratulations on such a successful event. And you know, I tip my hat to you. It's great to see so many familiar faces and have the opportunity to thank so many of you who supported my campaign and even came up to Delaware to volunteer. I cannot thank you enough. We changed the political system for good, and you had a direct part in that. So thank you very much. Candidates like me, like Bob Marshall and others, would not have a platform to do the work and say the things that we do if there was not a movement of the fine men and women in this room making things happen on the grassroots level. I also want to thank, especially on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, thank our veterans for your service to this country. So thank you to the men and women who have served and who are currently serving. And you know, today marks a lot of tragedy. The anniversary of of Pearl Harbor. And right before we got here, I don't know if you heard it on the news, Elizabeth Edwards passed away. So if we can just, you know, remember that family in your prayers. She was a fine woman, and we just have to, you know, take an opportunity to just remember to pray for that family as they're mourning her loss. The other tragedy that today marks, you know, tragedy comes in threes. Pearl Harbor, Elizabeth Edwards passing, and Barack Obama's announcement of extending the tax cuts, which is good, but also extending the unemployment benefits. Now, the reason I say this is a tragedy is because his announcement today for economic recovery is more of a potpourri of sound bites. It's like he took a little bit of what each party wanted and put it together. It's not constructed. It's not a solid plan constructed on sound economic principles. He's taking piecemeal parts of the full plan, which you could say is cuts squared, tax cuts and spending cuts. So it's not going to work. He's going to say, see, I catered to the Republicans, but it didn't work. It didn't work because your plan is the result of the spin doctor's chop shop. It's not a solid plan. Frankenomics, if you will. And I don't mean, you know, I mean Frankenstein, not Franken, the comedian turned senator, which, however, both are applicable here. But what Barack Obama is doing, by doing this piecemeal potpourri of sound bites instead of implementing a solid, well-thought-out economic plan for recovery based on free market principles, what he's doing is not only collapsing our nation economically, but he's weakening our collective character as a whole. He's weakening the collective character that defines us as a country, that defines us as Americans. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. It is through hard work, through failing as a businessman but getting back up, enduring through difficult times for your family, working hard, sacrificing. It is through the hard knocks of life that we develop the virtues that we need that give us strong character. We develop the virtues of patience, the virtues of persistence. We develop a solid work ethic that develops a strong character within us. When you have a community of good, strong characters, then you have a strong country. Now, instead of moving towards real economic recovery, I believe the best thing the government can do is to get out of the way of the entrepreneur, get out of the way of the small business owner, not expand the size of government. And instead, Barack Obama, instead of creating a culture of free market enterprise in which the entrepreneur spirit, the human spirit, can flourish, he's not just creating a culture of dependency, but a culture of entitlement. Do you remember in the mid-90s when they wanted welfare reform? They were proposing that welfare be capped at 2 years to move people to work. Let me give you an example of a person that personifies what I'm talking about. Just a couple days ago, there's a coffee cafe near where we all work. And my sister, who works for the campaign, was in there and overheard this gentleman saying, if these tax cuts aren't extended, I'm going to have to lay people off. So, of course, being, knee-deep in the campaign, you want to hear what other people are saying about issues that you've been campaigning and advocating for. So she said, excuse me, can you elaborate? What do you mean? And he explained, as you guys know, if, they're saying it's okay to raise the taxes on the millionaires, and if you make $1 million, your taxes are only going to go up about $45,000. Well, for many people, that's a salary. That $45,000 is a salary, and this man was a perfect example how raising taxes on the job creators hurts the middle class. Because he said, in this economy, I've had to lay people off. I started with myself. He cut his own salary. And he's had to continue to lay people off. And if these tax cuts don't get extended, he's going to have to continue to lay people off. And when he walked out, the woman behind the counter, her jaw dropped. She said, that's my boss. And my husband works for him too. And then she continued to share with Jenny about how she has a daughter that we all know their family, and she and her husband work very hard, not in high-paying jobs. They have a daughter who's a paraplegic, and they have 2 other young kids, so 3 young kids total. And she was sharing that they don't take a dime of government assistance, and they want it that way. They like it that way. And if one of them loses their job, they will no longer have that choice. Now, they financially will probably be okay because of the government assistance programs when you have a dependent child who's in a wheelchair. But we're taking something away from her. We're taking that honor. We're taking that privilege that she has to get up early. That coffee shop opens at 6 o'clock in the morning. She gets her kids out to school too. You can imagine how hard she works. And they're all on the honor roll because she stays up late with them doing their homework. We are taking away the honor of the fruits of her labor, being able to provide for her children, and that sense of value and respect that she has in knowing that she's working that hard, getting up before the sun so that her children can have a better life. I shared this story at another Teaparty event last week. And one of the servers there came up to me afterwards and she said, you know what? I didn't know I was a Tea Partier, but I think I am. And she talked about how she works 3 jobs. She drives a school bus during the day, she waits tables, and she didn't tell us what the 3rd job was. She said her main job was as a school bus driver. And although if she quit one of her jobs, she could get government assistance to help take care of her kids, but she doesn't want to. She likes them to know that their mother is working that hard for them. And she again has the pride of a parent working hard and sacrificing, suffering and enduring for you. That's an act of love. That's what I mean about Barack Obama's announcement today is not just collapsing our country economically, but by creating a culture of dependency, a culture of entitlement, we are weakening the collective character of our country as a whole, which is going to cause our country to implode from within. We need more women like this. And we need you to continue to spread the message about what the Tea Party really is about. Because what these 2 women, what we can learn from these 2 women, what we can prove and demonstrate without a doubt is that freedom is inscribed on the hearts of everyone. Everyone. And our longing to be valued, and our need to be respected, and our desire to be